What is going on, guys? Jack here and welcome back to Football Manager in the future. Today, the year is 2119. We are 100 years in the future. And well, looking at the world screen here, you can see one of these teams is not like the others. West Brom. Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. We'll talk more about that in just a second. If you didn't see the 50 years into future video that kind of prefaces this video, go check that one out. That was the first 50 years of the simulation. We've gone forward another 50 years, and it seems like a lot of stuff's changed since last time. I mean, I'm looking at it here. Let's start with World Cup winners, then we'll have a look at what the hell is going on with West Brom. So in terms of past World Cup winners, since, of course, well, 2066 was when we were last here. You can see England actually won it in 2070. Brazil, Italy, Switzerland winning a World Cup in 2082 is kind of crazy. And then you can see here Portugal, Brazil, Germany winning it 3 out of 4 years. And Portugal winning it recently, with England also getting a win. So their third World Cup win of this simulation for England. Looking at the hosts here, it's always kind of interesting to look through some of these. You can see Russia hosting a World Cup again, China hosting one, Morocco, South Korea. I'm sure there's some more odd countries in here that I've missed out. But regardless, yes, you can see some of the teams that have hosted it. 2050. 2050, it went back to South Africa. I kind of like the idea of that. I will say I am in the process of simulating into the future a save with every single nation in the game loaded. And we're going to simulate the whole World Cup and see how the game thinks that plays out. So that should be something actually to look forward to quite a lot. We'll have a look at the Euros as well, I think, before we get too far ahead. I'm just thinking of the easiest way to do this. And it's probably going to be like this. So if we have a look at the European Football Championship, Spain winning it most recently in 2016. Looking at past winners here, you can see England have won it a couple more times. In fact, I don't know if they have won it since we were last here, other than in 2088. Italy and Spain still looking very strong. Of course, France in this whole thing have been very, very good. You can see here they've won it on a number of occasions. Germany doing well, Portugal winning as well. Ireland finishing runner-up 11 years ago. That's probably the craziest one there. Ireland finishing runner-up in a competition hosted in Scotland and Wales. I mean, that is what dreams are made of. England winning it in their own back garden is also kind of nice to see as an Englishman. Kind of odd how many kind of repeat nations you have here hosting the competition. Maybe that's something that might be tweaked still. But yeah, Spain most recent winners. No real shocks there, you'd have to say, other than Ireland finishing runner-up, at least that I spotted. Of course, I'll let you guys let me know in the comments if you spot anything that I missed. I talked about it last episode with 50 years into the future. If there's anything I miss, please do let me know what that stuff is. Anyway, I think we have to go and look at what the hell has been going on in England, because West Brom are the biggest club in the world in terms of reputation. So something must have gone wrong here. Also, just worth noting that because we are so far into the future, the save game is starting to get a little bit slower. You know, 100 years in, the game is starting to chug. And well, let's have a look at the Premier League, where we're actually not going to focus on this season because it's not finished. But West Brom are up at the top. We're instead going to look at past winners. So looking at it here, West Brom finishing runner-up for the last 5 years in a row. Prior to that, Everton, who actually won the league last year. Everton looking like a team who have emerged as a force here. Of course, when we were here previously, I feel like the biggest shock winner was probably Southampton. That was kind of the biggest surprise. You can see, looking through it here, Arsenal, Tottenham, United, not entirely surprising. And then suddenly West Ham won the league 6 years in a row. That is pretty nutty. Brighton actually finishing third place, you can see here, in 2079-80. Looking beyond that, West Brom then went and won it 3 years in a row. Then it was United and West Brom. Middlesbrough decided to chime in with a few. And well, United went on an incredibly dominant run. 10 years in a row they won the league. A little bit boring. But while that was all going on, Everton and West Brom looked like they were battling it out with Arsenal for kind of third and fourth. Really interesting kind of to look at that. We'll just have a look at the Premier League records here. United have now won it 52 times. Tottenham with the most points in a season in 20, 35, 36 with 106. Fewest points in a season. No one has beaten Stoke's record. That would take quite some doing. League wins in a season. You can see here, Tottenham won 35 games in that 2035 season. You could probably do the maths and tell me how many games they won in total. I think they won 35, drew 1 and lost 2. That is an absolutely ridiculous record, whatever way you look at it. In terms of other stuff here that jumps out to me, again, I'm going to miss some stuff. Highest attendance at United. I guess Old Trafford has been expanded quite a lot. Most overall goals by players in a season. No one has overtaken Dixie Dean, 60. I can't say I'm entirely surprised about that. Most assists by a player in a season was Gary Jackson for Everton. Most clean sheets in a season, De Gea holds the record. It was actually set in the first year of this entire simulation. And, well, he did well there. A few other bits and pieces here. I don't see any massive shocks. I guess Patrick Roberts having the fastest goal might be a little bit of a surprise. Also, a Liverpool regen player who was very, very naughty. Got lots of red and yellow cards for him. And he held the record. 4 red cards in a season. I feel like that is almost an achievement in itself. But yes, West Brom looking like the big dogs. Before we go and look through the other major European leagues I've got loaded, let's have a look at the Champions League and what's been going on there. And, well, despite West Brom not winning the league too many times lately, they've won the Champions League a fair few times, as you can see here. In terms of other surprise teams on this list, I'm trying to think if there's a bigger shock than West Brom here. Looks like, is that Deportivo La Coruña? They're top of the league. We'll check on what they're doing in Spain, but yeah, they finished runners-up in the Champions League and they've won the league a load of times. Okay, Spanish dominance is over. Barca, Real Madrid, Atleti, pack up your bags. There is a new sheriff in town. Other teams here, just looking at it real quick. We've got 50 years to go through. I'm going to miss stuff here. West Ham did win a couple of Champions Leagues. West Ham fans will be pleased to know. Espanyol in 86 coming runners-up. Lots of English teams performing well. Also, the German team's doing fairly well. Sometimes with these simulations, you get it where one nation really dominates. But it looks like here, yes, the English teams probably have got it over kind of the course of the entire period. But there is a real variety in terms of the nations that these teams are coming from, and indeed the teams themselves. Just across the board, some interesting teams. Right, let's have a look at Spain, because I want to know what Deportivo La Coruña are doing. I'm assuming that's who they are. Of course, I've not got the real name fix installed just yet in FM. And we're looking at past winners. We talked last episode about how it was boring, about how, you know, the Barcelona, Real Madrid, yeah, you know, resident sleeper if you're a Twitch chat enthusiast. You can see since then, Espanyol have emerged on the scene. They won the league 9 times in 11 years. I mean, fair play to you, Espanyol. They have tailed off significantly since then in the last 50 years, but 9 Spanish First Divisions won. They also won the Europa League. What year would that have been in? That was in 2078. We didn't check the Europa League last time. Let's just have a look to see if there's any big surprises here in terms of past winners. Santander, I mean, the Spanish team seem to be doing well. Basel, that is a shock. One of the leagues we haven't got loaded. And Benfica, winning the Europa League. You can see here, Middlesbrough became Europa League specialists for a short while. Spartak Moscow also turning up. Brighton won it. I'm going to try and spot the big shocks. I'm sure you guys will spot other stuff that I miss. Bilbao getting runner-up, I guess, is a little bit of a surprise. If we just look, you know, in the more immediate future, because as I said, we didn't check this after we selected it and had it loaded. You can see Arsenal won it first season. Porto, Lazio, Sevilla. No real shocks in the first kind of years. I'm trying to see where the first team that strikes me as a shock is. Would Middlesbrough be considered the biggest shock in this list? Probably. They won it in 2048-49. They finished runner-up not that long before that. Yeah, I'd say they're probably the first of the kind of surprise packages to win it. But you can see since then, players like teams like Metz have turned up and done pretty well. Espanyol, I mean, I wish we could go and check out that Espanyol team that won the league so many years in a row. That is not the team that they are now, unfortunately. And as we said, Deportivo, the team who have really stepped up. If we look at them, you can see here they've won so many titles over the last few years. 8 Spanish Cups, all in the last few years, really. Did they do it, quote-unquote, legitimately, or was it a tycoon? No. Well, actually, they've had a tycoon takeover in last year, but prior to that, did they have a tycoon? That's what I'm wondering. And we may never find out. They had a consortium. Oh, they did have a tycoon takeover. Andy Brown. That is not a Spanish-sounding name. Well, Andy Brown, you've done your team good. You can see here they were then taken over by another tycoon after Andy Brown scaled down his funding. I mean, fair play, Deportivo. Fair play. Other teams here, Santander, we saw them finish runner-up. Have they had any good seasons? They finished second a couple of years. It feels weird to see kind of 03-04 not be 2003-2004. That keeps throwing me off a little bit. So a few kind of surprises here in Spain. If there's any other teams you spot here who are very, very weird teams, please do let me know. Inevitably, we are going to miss some of them as we go through all of this. In terms of the Bundesliga, Dortmund were the kind of big head honchos, I feel like, in this simulation previously. Looking at it, they are not the head honchos anymore. I mean, you can see how dominant they were for the first 50 years. That's not fun. That's just not fun. Since there, though, you can see Schalke have won it a number of years. Leipzig have won it a number of years. No real massive surprises in Germany. I've got to be honest. Schalke, you can see, have won it the last 4 years. But there's no kind of relatively unknown team that's sprung from nowhere to do really well. I'm trying to see if there's any second-tier teams. I guess Cologne, the team who have rised up the most. There is this team here who don't have a logo, but they've just got relegated, so they're not in the top league anymore. Bill's bad. Yeah, not entirely surprising to see Schalke doing so well. But, well, I was hoping we'd get a little bit more kind of in the way of change. Let's have a look at France. France was perhaps the league that had some of the biggest shocks, you know, considering that PSG are so good. Last time we checked, obviously since 1968, since 2068, where PSG were reinstating themselves with a bit of a legacy, you can see they have done that. Battling against Saint-Etienne and Havre, again, not going to get that pronunciation right because they were very prominent last time. They've been prominent again here. It looks like they've become the 3 teams to beat up until recently, actually. But you can see here, Nice have won the league 3 out of the 4 kind of previous kind of times, which is pretty impressive. I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't seen more in the way of teams kind of changing around here. It seems like these guys really have been the teams to beat over the last kind of 50 or so years. Looking at Serie A, that was a league where Juventus weren't doing a whole lot. They are third. Atlanta doing well this current season, but that's not what we're here to look at. We're here to look at the here and now and, well, the past actually, technically, or the future. Getting a little bit meta here. But yes, you can see here, Inter Milan, they're pretty blooming good, aren't they? They've won the league. I mean, in the last 14 years, they've won it 12 times. That's not that bad. Besides them, obviously, since we left, Juventus, Lazio kind of sharing the spoils. Roma won a couple. Actually, they won a few over the course of time. But it's been kind of a 2-horse race, it seems like, for the most part. I'm looking if there's any big shocks. I guess this team here, who I've never heard of, Salernitana, I've never heard of them, but they finished 3rd one year. They've actually been in the 2nd tier for a number of years. They look like they're about to get relegated as well, bottom of the league. But they peaked at one point in time. I'm curious, to get to that place, they must have had a tycoon takeover. It's sad, but if this FM simulation's anything to go by, in order to be a successful club, you need a tycoon takeover. Did they actually get a tycoon takeover? I wish I'd double-checked the year. They might not have got a tycoon takeover, you know. Maybe I'm chatting rubbish. Maybe they did it cleanly. Or maybe I've missed it. Please let me know. Either way, they've done well for themselves. They finished 3rd. I say they've done well for themselves. They were down in Serie C just a couple of years ago. A bit of a fallen giant. I guess if you were in a fictitious future, they might be an interesting save to do. But yes, that's what's been going on in Serie A. In terms of other bits and pieces, I'm trying to think what else that is worth showing. Obviously, stuff like awards. I can show you like the award winners for the best players in the world. But it doesn't really matter. It's just going to be a regen and regen. I guess it's sometimes nice to look at the best regen. We'll look at this guy, Jakobsen. He is the player who's won it so many times as of late. You can see here he plays for West Brom, the world's best team. I'll tell you what we'll do to end today, and I will say what I said last time, which is if there's anything that you feel like I should have shown in this video that I didn't, let me know it down in the comments, and I'll endeavour to show it next time. But let's have a look through this West Brom side. Who are the players who make them the best team in the world? They've got this guy, Thomas Gabriel, Czech international, more goals than games that he's played in. Matthias Jakobsen we've already looked at. Nolan Defoe, he's a pretty good defensive midfielder, isn't he? Zano, I mean, they look like they've got some absolutely mental kind of strikers and stuff. This is an impressive team to look at, you'd have to say. I want to check. Did they get a tycoon takeover? They did. They got Choi Hyung-ho. Did they have a kind of, what would you call it, a tycoon prior to that? I don't think they did. Unless it was a long time ago. In fact, yes, they did. They've had a few tycoons then. So I'm sorry, West Brom. I don't recognise your achievement as being that great. And I mean, look, they've not even won the league in the last 20 years. They finished second so many times, bless them. Their team look kind of old as well. It'll be interesting to see 200 years into the future if they are still considered the biggest team in the world. Let's just have a quick look. Were there any other teams on the world list that were kind of big surprises here? United, Schalke, Dortmund, Everton. I'd say that's kind of a big shock. Where have they finished in recent years? You can see they won the league last year, of course. They kind of have been battling, it looks like, with West Brom for that second place spot for a number of years. Other teams here, Boca and River in Argentina doing well. Sometimes in these simulations, the South American teams over hundreds of years seem to go up in rep. That's happened here. Coruña or Deportivo have done pretty blooming well. I mean, fair play to you. You are the biggest team in Spain. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see how long they can keep this spell of dominance kind of going. Will we see a resurgence from the likes of Real Madrid, Atleti and Barca? I feel like it's kind of impressive they're still up there towards the top of the table. Of course, next time around, we're going to be going forward another 100 years. We're going to be going 200 years into the future. So I imagine stuff will have a bit more of a radical change there. If there is anything that I missed in this episode, guys, do please let me know. To round things up, because I have got the whole of England loaded, we'll just go through all the different leagues. Keep an eye out if you spot any teams that have moved up or down massively. Shout about them, scream about them, let me know in the comments. Worth noting, actually, I complained last time about the fact it didn't feel like the Premier League teams had changed that much. This time it feels like there are actually a few more kind of non-Premier League teams. Still not as many as you'd like to see, but considering we're 100 years into the future and the way that money seems to make the rich get richer, they're not doing too badly. Chorley in League One. Surely not. How have they managed that? I'm not entirely sure. They've had 3 back-to-back promotions. Who's managing them? Me? Oh, okay, let's not get too big-headed, Jack. They got relegated this last year. Did they get taken over by a tycoon or something? Did they get taken over by a tycoon? It doesn't look like they did. They did it off their own accord. Fair play. 3 promotions in a row. They've now finished rock bottom of League One. But, yeah, can't knock that, surely. Let's have a look at League 2 to see what's going on here. Again, if you spot any teams that are big shocks down in these divisions, let me know. Dulwich Hamlet are up there. That's kind of impressive. Torquay have had a few promotions over the last 100 years or so. Let's have a look at the Vanarama National League. Looking at it here. Any shocks? I can't see any. I'm kind of looking for a Premier League team down here, but I'm not necessarily expecting to see one. Seems like there hasn't been too massive a changes just yet in terms of teams going up and down. Of course, if there is any that I've missed, please scream about them, as I already said. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this video from me. As I said on the 50 years into the future video, if you'd like to, I may well stream for an hour or so kind of these 3 save games that we're covering in the 50 years, 100 years and 200 years into the future videos. If that's something you would like to see me do, I will upload the VOD, of course, later to YouTube. Do let me know. It would be a chance for you guys to tell me exactly what you want me to show off. And, you know, let me know your thoughts on them down in the comments. And, well, that's going to be all from me today. Thank you for watching. As I said, if I've missed anything, please do let me know. When you're covering 100 years of history, inevitably there is going to be stuff that slips through the net and that you guys spot that I miss. And, well, that is going to be all from me today. If you have enjoyed the video, please do leave a like. If you're new around here, subscribe. Check out the description for a playlist with all the FM Into the Future videos. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.